20 years ago, back in 2000, I was part of a radio show, a radio talk show that was all video game focused. The showrunner, the guy who paid to get the show on the air, his name was Guy. He ran Fantasy Realms, which was a chain of independently owned video game stores here in the Western Massachusetts area. We also had Ron, who was, I believe, he was either working for the post office or he worked in shipping somewhere. He was a regular in the store and pretty knowledgeable about games. And then there was myself. I was the news desk guy. So if you ever heard morning talk radio, you have like the DJ who kind of runs the whole thing, and then you have maybe like the sidekick, and then you have the guy who runs the news and sports desk. I was the news sports guy. It was a 2-hour show. We ran it every week. Again, Guy paid the local radio station, which is WHYN AM. We were on an AM station. He paid, it was basically like advertising money. So in return for advertising, they let us have a couple of hours on the station every week. So it was great. We felt like rock stars, honestly, even though probably 8 people were listening. And it was a lot of fun. And it was also a great way for Guy and Ron to get credentials to go to E3 in 2000. And that was the year that Sony was showing off the PlayStation 2. That was also the same show that they went to when I was at home, where they were able to network with Tommy Tallarico, who is from the Springfield, Massachusetts area originally. And we were able to do an interview with him in a few weeks' time after the show from E3 that we had done. One of the games that they talked about when they were checking out all the really cool PS2 stuff at E3 was a game called Dynasty Warriors 2, which is this guy right here. If you're a regular watcher of this series, you remember back in 2018, in October, I opened this particular copy. Dynasty Warriors 2 was completely different from the first Dynasty Warriors game, which was more of a one-on-one fighting game. Dynasty Warriors 2 was you on an open battlefield against hundreds and thousands of soldiers just mowing them down. It was kind of building on the beat-em-up style of games, so your Streets of Rage or your Golden Axe, but it was a bit more intricate than that. There was some light strategy and tactical elements as well. Plus, there was some one-on-one stuff when you would take on a commander or a general, where it was just the two of you trying to whittle each other's energy down. So the game was great. It was an early PS2 game, of course, so there were some issues with slowdown and some other things, but still getting all of these soldiers on the screen at once was a pretty big deal at the time. And of course, I didn't really get into it. I skipped it. It wasn't until Dynasty Warriors 3 came out that I stood up and took notice of this series, and it was the game that made me a believer in the series. It looked a little bit better. It ran a little bit better. The voice acting and the camp were certainly off the charts. But the music, the soundtrack, I can listen to the Dynasty Warriors 3 soundtrack all day long. It is that good. And if you've ever played a Dynasty Warriors game, the soundtracks in these games are preliminary, or primarily, I should say, guitar-driven rock. A little bit of it's cheesy, but that's okay. For me, I like that kind of cheesy rock, that Japanese cheesy guitar rock that just makes me feel good when I listen to it. In fact, when I played Dynasty Warriors 8 or Dynasty Warriors 9, and they actually have music tracks from this game, and I use those. I don't use the music in those games, so that's awesome. And my favorite game of this series, of course, I have 4, I have 5, I have 6, all for the PlayStation 2. I don't have 7 anymore because I don't have a PS3 or an Xbox 360 anymore. But I do have 8 on my Switch, which runs okay. And I have 9 on my Xbox One X. And we won't talk about Dynasty Warriors 9 because it doesn't fit. So why am I bringing up Dynasty Warriors? Do I have another game in that series to open? The answer is no. Unfortunately, I do not. Dynasty Warriors games on eBay are still going for a lot of money. But I do have a game that plays just like Dynasty Warriors, runs about as well as Dynasty Warriors, takes place in a somewhat different setting, but it comes from a different company. It comes from a company, a publisher that you all know and many of you probably love, Capcom. The game that we're going to be opening today, and the game we're going to be talking about, is a game called Devil Kings. And there's the Capcom name down at the bottom there. Now, Devil Kings, what is that? If you have a Wii or a PlayStation 3, you might have played or at least heard of a game called Sengoku Basara. That is this. just in a Generation 7 skin with better graphics and more characters and things like that. But this was the initial float for that series here in the US. And the game is really good. It's not quite as packed with content like the Dynasty Warriors games are, but nevertheless, it executes the Dynasty Warriors gameplay mechanics so well, and some of the portrayals of some of the Japanese characters in the game, and I'll get to the background in a minute, are really funny. Some of the localization is just a hoot to watch. So we're going to open this up, and we're going to talk about this a little bit today on Unsealed. So as we look at the cover, that's some pretty awesome artwork, I think. And when we look on the back, experience the face of warfare. And we do see some screenshots there from the creators of Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. I'll have to look at that when we look at the manual. So when we take a look at the back of the case, it says here, pure action. Wage war to experience the heat of battle and face off against hordes of enemies. Conquer all, reign supreme, and achieve total world domination. It sounds familiar. It sounds like the Dynasty Warriors MO, and it really is for all intents and purposes, except the setting is a little different, and we'll get to that. 6 characters, each with unique fighting styles. So right there, instead of the dozens of characters that the Dynasty Warriors games have throughout Chinese history, you have 6 primary characters to use in this game. So that is a bit of a ding in terms of the content department. Loads of weapons, dual spears, swords, a shotgun, dual pistols, military axes, and more. Master combos to create unlimited chains, and that's one of the cool things about this game is you can get combos of up over 1,000 in this game, which is just insane. Elemental attribute that enhances the powers of weapons, and again, it does promise that it's from the creators of Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. Well, it's from the same publisher anyway, but we'll take a look at the credits if there are any in the back. So, this is a teen-rated game, so I know that I can open this up and it's still a family show. So without further ado, we're going to open this. But before I do want to let you know that I got this from Amazon, and what makes me a little nervous, see that right there where it says Devil King's PS2 new? The way that this is sealed makes me think that it's a real reseal job and not a factory seal job. So it kind of counts, but not really. We'll see when I open it up. Okay, that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and we're going to try and get this open so that you guys can see. There we go. And because this game came out so late in the PlayStation 2 lifespan, there isn't a seal at the top. Of course, if this was resealed, it probably wouldn't have it anyway. All right. So when we open this up, and again, I have to be careful that the disc doesn't come out. This does look legitimate, actually. I'll take a look at the disc condition in a minute here. This is what you get when you open it up. You get the instruction manual right here. You get the disc right there. This also is in a PS2 case that has a memory card holder, which I always thought was a really cool idea if you brought these games to friends' houses. Let's take a look at the disc condition really quick here. Yeah, this looks legit. All right, awesome. Which is great because I got rid of my original Devil King's disc because I knew I got a new one of these. So I kind of needed it. I was relying on it being new, and I got lucky. So here's the manual. There is nothing being advertised on the back here. It's just Capcom. I don't even think there is a warranty card anywhere on here. I think by this time, and what is this? This is 2006, I believe. 2005. So by 2005, they were starting to transition more toward online registration anyway. The manual is in black and white. It's not in color. But again, this does not surprise me. Let me see if I can open this up to where you can kind of see what's going on. And I think you can see it there. It is, for all intents and purposes, this is Dynasty Warriors from the way that the menus are laid, or the way that the HUD is laid out to the way the game is played. It is, to me at least, it's an homage to Dynasty Warriors, at least in my opinion. In the front of the manual, we do have a little bit of a story teaser. The world is in turmoil, and a new breed of hot-blooded heroes, the likes no one has ever seen, is changing the face of warfare. Some fight for the people, some for their lords, while others fight to fulfill their own aspirations of greatness. But they all fight for one thing: total domination. I think that's all we get for story here, though. We do have the characters: Devil King, Scorpio, Azure Dragon, Lady Butterfly, Red Minotaur, and Venus. Those characters in Sengoku Basara for the PS3 and the Wii are renamed to their Japanese actual counterparts, but I believe that they're voiced in English in that game. I think they are here too, which makes it even funnier. So because the game progresses like a Dynasty Warriors game, you're going to be taking over bases, you're going to be battling enemy generals or enemy bosses. You have to watch what's going on the map at all times to make sure that certain characters don't get captured or don't get killed. And all the while you're using your square and your triangle buttons to execute different combos. So it will feel very familiar to you if you played a Warriors game at all, except it's taking place in Japan instead of China. So you're not going to have Lu Bu, you're not going to have Cao Cao, you're not going to have any of those people that you're more familiar with. You're going to have different characters altogether here. Again, the big knock on the game is the fact that there are fewer characters to play as. But this was really the first, or the introduction to this series here in the U.S., so it's kind of a take it or leave it situation. And once you do give it time, if you give it a chance, it is a lot of fun to play. It really is. It performs well on the PS2, which it should by this time in the PlayStation 2's lifespan. The music is pretty good, although not quite as epic as the Dynasty Warriors games. And it's really easy to pick up and play, I think, and there are different difficulty levels too. So as you get better, you can provide yourself with greater challenge if you decide to do so. So that game I recommend. I certainly recommend the Sengoku Basara games if you have a Wii or a PS3. The Wii version runs okay. It is not perfect. There is some slowdown in spots here and there. It does run with the Wii Pro controller, however, though, so you don't need to waggle and play your way through or use the nunchuck and the Wii remote. You can actually just use the Pro controller and play like normal. It is fantastic. I do recommend either of those games. If you're looking for something a little bit different than Omega Force's Warrior games, these are games that you can enjoy. And unfortunately, because the releases of Sengoku Basara in the US for the Wii and the PS3 didn't sell too well, Capcom has not been localizing them since, which is really a shame for us because, as I said, the games are a lot of fun. So that is another look at the Warriors / Devil King / Sengoku Basara series of games that I enjoy so much. They are, I don't want to say a guilty pleasure, but they're certainly a favorite of mine to go to, especially on rough days, because you can just pick it up and play it and just take down enemies by the thousand, and it's fun. It's not overly graphic or anything. There's not blood everywhere. It's very reminiscent of like an arcade beat 'em up in that respect, and arcade stuff, that's what I'm all about. Thanks for watching, everybody, and until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. We'll do it again soon. See you later.